Okay, I have technical difficulties today, so I'm just going to use my phone to record and hope that it doesn't die on me halfway. Also, I just got inked yesterday, this portion, and here, so you can kind of see that it has been completed, more or less. Yes, so coloring will be next. Kind of excited for it, kind of nervous because I don't really know what my tattoo artist plans to do. It's okay, it's alright. Yep. Okay, so this month, the month of August, I managed to read 8 books. Yeah, to my surprise. I thought I would only manage to read like 2, but then somehow towards the end of the month, I just caught the reading bug again. So I read 8 books. I was very motivated by the library due date. So the first book that I read was something that I received as an advanced reading copy, Singa-Pura-Pura, edited by Nazry, Bahrawi, Malay speculative fiction from Singapore. So this is a collection of 13 short stories translated from Malay to English. I went in not having expectations, but I was just wowed by what was presented to me. I didn't expect myself to enjoy reading it so much. I think like when you read speculative fiction from the region, there is already like a very high standard up there. For this, comparing like what I have read so far with this still stands out. I was so surprised. I think like my favorite is still the first story. Yeah, the rest of the stories were also actually very good, and it's impossible to just summarize 13 very different stories, so I think it's better to just go by themes. So the first theme is that of like man's relationship with God. The second theme is about man's relationship with technology. The third theme is about the individual's relationship with the state, often the surveillance state. At this point, I feel like I need to give some kind of a warning that this book is not like PG-13, and also it's not like if you cannot take horror, you cannot take gore or body horror, then you need to be forewarned lah. To say that a book or a story needs to be like morally pristine to have any kind of value, I think it's very fallacious. So even though personally, of course, I would rather not read stories where there are depictions of sexual assault, but I understand that sometimes it's not a matter of necessity but a matter of like style, and also a matter of what is the message sent. And I can understand why some people might be like turned off by some of the stories, especially like one particular story where there is a depiction of mutilation of corpses and blood and whatnot. But that story was also talking about art imitating life, and also life imitating art, and also the artist's relationship with his own work. So if we sanitize everything, that's kind of what they want, right? And if we insist on sanitizing everything that we read, or having anything be sanitized before it comes to our consumption, then it's kind of ironic because the book itself is talking about that level of maybe even censorship. So that's just my thoughts. Yeah, okay, moving on. The last theme is family. Like, how are family relationships changing or being interfered with by technology, by advancement, by evolution even? So it's really a collection of speculative fiction. It is exactly what it is. So like the cover doesn't lie to you, you know? Okay, second physical book. I'll do all the physical books first before moving on to the books that I read on Libby. So, Must I Go by Yiyun Lee. That's her. Yiyun Lee is over here. Is it very dark? It's raining, so I think like it's very dark, but I'm not so sure. Okay, this book is about It's very hard to summarize this book because, first of all, look at how thick it is. Second of all, it's hard to say that there is a plot because it's about a woman who is old enough to have a great-granddaughter by now, but her first daughter was actually a love child that she had with a man that she had a brief affair with when she was younger, called Roland, and she's never like let go of this man. Like, she's always loved him and everything. So when he died and he released his memoirs of his life, she kind of like gets very obsessed about it, and then this whole book is just her commentary on his memoir interwoven with her memories of her daughter with him that he doesn't know existed, because she loves him and she loves her daughter very much, and her daughter committed suicide and she has never been able to let go of it. So she's like grappling with grief for decades and she is still unable to grapple with it properly. So that is the gist of the book. I wouldn't say it's enjoyable. I would say that it is deep. I would say that it's very creative writing kind of style, but enjoyability, no. Brilliant, yes. Enjoyable, no. Yeah! What happened? Okay. Whew. Next. Legend of the Condor Heroes Book 4. A Heart Divided by Yong. So this is the 4th book. Please look at this. Yeah, it is pointless to try to summarize the series because it is a very long series. It's also a very famous series, so it's like trying to summarize Harry Potter. It's pointless, you know. You would have heard of it, or it's so easy to like read summaries of it online. So I'll just give you my takeaways of it. Okay, my takeaway from this is that our protagonist Guo Jing, he is a blockhead from start to end. Like, seriously, this kind of man is just so listening to his internal monologue, I just get angry. I want to slap him. Why is he so stupid, right? Like, he's sitting there thinking, oh, is it okay for me to kill this bad guy? Yes, it is okay. He is a bad guy. Why does it take you 4 books to like reach that conclusion that it is okay to eliminate somebody who is only going to go on and kill more people? Headache, just big headache. So thankfully for him, he has like a super chill and super smart girlfriend. This girlfriend just swoops in all the time to save the day. Martial prowess wise, she can hold her own, but you know what, because she's like the girl, right, so she can never be as powerful as her boyfriend Guo Jing, but you know, she's still pretty smart, so she like acts as like a very strong like support character for him. And yeah, okay, it's true that in a way she is a feminist icon because she doesn't really subscribe to notions of you need to marry me to prove that you love me and we cannot like travel together because it's improper, whatever. No, so she's not so conventional, and on top of that, she's also obviously better than Guo Jing in many ways, and she doesn't get punished for it. She stays the same. There is no character development for her, and she doesn't sacrifice herself for him without him being willing to do the same for her. So their relationship, I would say, is equal. It's on equal footing, which is why I would say that this is actually quite progressive, even though it is also very, very conservative, because everywhere is just about, oh, you must love your country. Oh, what would Confucius say? We need to listen to our elders. We need to show respect. There's a lot to disagree with, but it is so entertaining. I can overlook it. I can just overlook it. From start to end, right, it's just entertaining. There is not a single dull moment in the series because people are just fighting with each other all the time, and then they are using like the most ridiculous moves and like the most ridiculous plot twists happen. So just reading it is like fun. It's fun. There is no deep meaning or what, but it's just fun. The deepest meaning is that you just need to find yourself a very, very smart and capable girlfriend and you are set for life. Set for life. Okay, next, physical copy. Keep Moving by Maggie Smith. It's a collection of tweets. So you have short pieces like this, and then majority of the book are like short messages like that. Can see? I would say it's in the genre of poetry and self-help. Self-help because if I were going through a very hard time, this book would have helped me a lot. I'm no longer grieving, but for somebody who is grieving, if you read this book, I can understand why it would give you the strength you need to go on. Because the author, she wrote it when she was grieving. It took me a very long time to borrow this book because it's just always being borrowed. And for good reason. I think she's a good writer and I follow her on Twitter and I'm just glad that she's thriving. So now we're moving on to soft copies. I will just like put the cover here. Okay, so the first one is Grim Tuesday by Garth. This is the second book of the Keys to the Kingdom series. While the first book set the premise, the second book continues with it. So we explore a little bit more about the lower realms of the house. Adventure-wise, I would say that it is entertaining enough for children. For children, I would definitely prefer his other series, but you know, maybe I will push through and give the rest of the books in this series a chance. Okay, next, I read 2 books by the same author. The first is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This book is about 2 teenagers who go to a really fancy, expensive school in New York, but they both come from humble backgrounds. Like their parents run like a sandwich shop, so they are obviously rivals. One of the protagonists, her mother, turned that sandwich shop into a big franchise, which then ended up being at war with the love interest's family's sandwich shop. So they started a tweeting war, the 2 of them, because they were both tweeting from their family's accounts. It gained traction, and then obviously they had to find out who each other were. There was a lot of unnecessary mudslinging on both sides, and then we get to find out like the backstory behind their parents' relationship with each other in the past, and how do they exactly know each other, etc, etc. It's entertaining, it's very contemporary, it's a story for today. Like, it's not something that people who don't grow up with cell phones, with Twitter, with things going viral would understand. I'm glad that books like this are being written because, you know, as much as I enjoy Regency romances or Jane Austen or what, I think like we should have books written for the current generation that are not about doom and gloom and overthrowing a corrupt government. Okay, so the second book I read by her is You Have a Match. I thought it was about a dating app, but it's not. It's about a DNA test. So the protagonist, she has 3 younger brothers, and then she takes a DNA test for fun, and she finds out she actually has an older sister who's living at a different part of a town. Like, she's an uptown girl, she's kind of rich, parents are kind of rich, and her parents her whole life has acted like she doesn't have an older sister. So she's like on a mission to find out what has happened between her parents and her older sister's adoptive parents. They go to camp, summer camp, right? Over there, she kind of gets out of her shell. She gets to develop her hobby, which is photography. She also gets to like deepen her relationship with one of the best friends that she's been in love with this whole time. Of course, like in the first book, the parents have some kind of backstory that you uncover later on, and it's all resolved and they all live happily ever after. So about this author, what I realized was that her first book, right, diversity was very like tokenistic. Like, you have a gay guy here and that's about it, and then the main characters are like 2 of them are like white, blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever kind of thing. So diversity was relegated to the periphery. But then in her second book, she makes a more conscious effort to make sure that the cast is diverse and inclusive enough. So you have the main protagonist, she's Irish, and then her love interest is Filipino, and her older sister is lesbian, is involved in a love triangle with 2 other girls. People, when they are sitting down talking about their relationships, they just casually name drop people of their own gender, or even people who sound non-binary. It's kind of casually inclusive. They don't try to push an agenda so much. I kind of enjoyed the second book a lot more for that reason, because it's very rare to see a book where someone just casually has a girlfriend and then that someone is also an Instagram influencer, and there is no like vitriol being thrown at her, there is no like homophobic comments whatsoever. It's just accepted. It's accepted. And it's very soothing, I would say, to read a book where basically it's ideal lah. That was gonna be a short video and it ended up being a long video. Okay, the last book is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Ness. So the premise of this book is, you know how in every young adult series there are like a group of chosen ones, they have like special skills and talents. They are the ones that are going to end up like being involved with vampires like in Twilight, or they are the ones that are going to get cancer and then die beautifully like in The Fault in Our Stars, or they are the ones that are going to end up being chosen by otherworldly beings, aliens, immortals, gods and goddesses, whatever, right? And then along the way, things get destroyed, buildings get blown up, the school gets blown up, people die, etc, etc, etc. There are a lot of mysterious happenings, correct? So what happens to the people living in that particular world but they are not part of the main story? This is the premise of the book, which is that there is a group of teenagers and they are not special, they are not the chosen ones going off to fight wars with vampires or soul-eating ghosts, hordes of the undead or whatever. No, they are just trying to graduate and to enjoy the last 5 weeks that they have before they are all split up and going to different colleges. The protagonist, Mike Mitchell, he's just a normal guy trying to confess to a girl that he's known all his life that he loves her, but she's obviously like not in love with him back. And his best friend is just like casually gay and also 1/4 god of the cats. He has kind of a special cat whisperer power, and I feel like the book also doesn't make a big deal out of like teenage sexuality. Like he mentions that the two best friends, even though they are not like, you know, attracted to each other or what, but they have like messed around. It's part of like homosocial bonding, but it's not homosexual. And I thought that this very like frank approach to depicting teenagers was very refreshing, because even at the end when he manages to sleep with the girl that he likes all this time, and then he realizes that yeah, it was a good and enjoyable experience, but at that moment they realized that actually they were just better off being best friends. So the sex is not like the be all and end all. The sex was like a product of the trust and the bond and the friendship that they had, and after realizing that that bond was what sustained that enjoyable experience, they realized that they don't need to be boyfriend girlfriend to be in each other's lives anymore. So it's like they managed to very maturely come to terms with what their relationship is and should be. There's a lot of consent involved, there's a lot of discussion involved, and yeah, I just thought that it was a very good book overall. Like, and it's so funny because at the start of every chapter you have like a very short summary of what's happening in the main plot, and then this main plot is just ridiculous. Like the heroine, she's called Satchel, she's like friends with this guy called Finn, Finn, because apparently it's a very hipster sounding name to have. And then Finn one dies, and then there's another kid called Finn, and then like the prince of the immortals like observes her from afar and falls in love with her or something like that. But then the queen of the immortals, she like wants to come over and take over Earth, and then she needs to have a vessel, and then she wants to use Satchel as the human body. It's just like, it's so cliche, but it's so funny because we all have read stories like that before, right? We've seen stories where these kind of improbable events happen to like a special few people who are just very unlucky in life or something like that. They are always chosen to die, always chosen to fight. They just do not have the normal high school experience. But then I like how this author, he kind of asks about what about the rest of them, right? The rest of us, normal people who are living in this world with internet access, who use internet access, because once again, it seems like people in YA novels do not live in like a world where the internet exists, where they can Google things, where they can text each other. Okay, so this is what I read in the month of August. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hopefully I get to read a bit more when September comes, but then again, you know, most likely I won't, because there's a lot of marking to do. Okay, that's all for now. It's very likely that by the next time I do my book video, my tattoos would be fully colored in. Exciting stuff. So I'll show you then. Bye.